This stadium is generally rated as one of the worst in the NFL.
Hands down the worst.
It is?
Yeah, hands down the worst, yeah.
Last season, a railing collapse at FedEx Field sent those Eagles fans falling.
4 fans that were injured after a railing collapse are suing the team.
Northwest Stadium, previously known as FedEx Field, is the home of the Washington Commanders and is consistently ranked as one of the worst stadiums in the NFL.
It's the worst stadium in the NFL by far. It's a dump.
Greg said this place should be condemned. Emily said, I hate this studio. I'm going to assume that she meant stadium, but I think you get the point. And Derek said, dirty, dingy, and decrepit. FedEx is a sad, soul-sucking place. It's rusting, pipes are spewing sewage, concrete is crumbling. So the reviews here are not great.
And I should probably get out of the parking lot because one time a fire started in it and caused $150,000 in damages and destroyed 8 cars.
But I am a lifelong Washington fan, and every time I've been to a game, I had a great time. But it's been like 8 years since I've been here probably, and a lot has changed since then.
FedEx is ending this naming rights agreement with the Commanders Stadium.
Longtime owner Dan Snyder agreeing to sell the NFL franchise.
And under new ownership, $75 million has been invested into Northwest Stadium to improve infrastructure, dining, seating. So is this actually still the most dangerous and worst stadium the NFL has to offer? Today, that's what we're going to investigate.
And before we investigate some of the most viral parts of this stadium, we are going to start with an area that some of that $75 million was used on, the seating.
Hasib described the seating here as terrible seating that should not even be seats. So don't get the 200 level seats unless you want to be in a cave. And he attached a picture, and to be honest, it did look very cave-like, pretty obstructed view. I'm in a 200 level seat now though, not my actual seat. I just kind of walked up here just to see what it was like, and it's actually really good. In the shade, very good view of the field, but I think maybe Hasib was on the other side. So right behind me there's suites, so you're not quite as obstructed by the overhang here. Hasib's review, questionable. We're gonna go check out the other side of the 200 seats and see. So we have made it to the other side of the stadium, and the review is definitely valid. My head is actually above the level of the overhang in front of me, so not great. Like a punt or a field goal, you probably can't see it from here.
And that's actually exactly what Adam said in his review.
Hopefully you aren't here to see any long kicks, punts, or long throws. Not pictured here is the steadily leaking ceiling directly above the seats. I don't see anything leaking.
But the Commander Stadium had a major leak just a couple years ago when a sewage pipe burst right over fans' heads.
That's sewage!
And after trying to figure out exactly where the pipe burst, we determined it was right around these seats here, but it looks like everything has been patched up over there.
I didn't see any major leakage. Everything looked to be intact over there.
But unfortunately, the stadium's viral plumbing issues don't end there.
There have been reports of plumbing issues in the locker room. One time after a game, the Commanders had no water reportedly in their showers, and they couldn't shower. And that's pretty bad, especially after playing a football game. Probably pretty stinky.
And with the problems that this current Commander Stadium has had, there's lots of talks about building a new stadium.
Now that the Commander sale is happening, the next big question is, where is the team going to build its next stadium?
There's talk of building a new stadium. You guys think they should stick with this one or build a new one?
I say build a new one. I agree. I mean, the team's back alive. Imagine the stadium back to life with the fans.
And the funny thing about the Washington Commanders is that they don't actually play in Washington.
The stadium is actually in Maryland, about a 30-minute drive from the center of downtown DC.
And the Commanders' headquarters and practice facilities are in Ashburn, Virginia, which is an hour away from the stadium. But new team owner Josh Harris has hinted that he wants to bring the stadium back to Washington, D.C. itself.
You know, it's not just business, it's about the city, the franchise, the fans doing what's right to bring the team back to where it needs to be.
And where it needs to be, for some people, is RFK Stadium, which was the team's home stadium from 1961 all the way to 1997. The stadium is beloved in the Washington fan base, and even though it's been abandoned since 2019 and is set to be demolished, there are still a lot of fans that want to move back to that stadium site.
You can refurbish RFK, that would be dope.
It's like nowhere near the city where it should be. Yeah. It should be at RFK.
And because these fans did think that this stadium was one of the worst in the NFL,
hands down the worst, yeah.
I wanted to find out if anything that's happened recently gave them any concerns about fan safety.
When the railing collapsed on Jalen Hurts a couple of years ago, do you guys have any safety concerns?
Nah, no safety concerns, man. I don't want a sewage pipe to explode on me, though. I would like to think the new ownership is like, not going to let that happen.
And after talking with a bunch of different fans, most people's concerns about the stadium were about something other than safety.
It's really out of the way.
You can tell there's kind of a dead atmosphere.
But as I was walking through the stadium, I noticed this pipe that was actually leaking. But compared to the viral sewage pipe, this is thankfully pretty minor. And speaking of the sewage pipe, even though the news ran with the story, according to a team spokesperson, it was actually rainwater that was coming out of the pipe. But still, that incident, at least for now, does seem to have hurt some people's opinion of the stadium.
Heard like toilet water comes down and stuff, so Ravens Stadium's definitely better.
But even if this mysterious liquid was really just rainwater, there's another part of the stadium that has had some well-known issues in the past: the field itself. Some people have said this field is cursed because of the number of high-profile injuries on it. Joe Burrow, torn ACL. Adrian Peterson, torn ACL. Chase Young, torn ACL. Ryan Fitzpatrick, career-ending hip injury. Alex Smith, open leg fracture that led to infection and flesh-eating bacteria eating his leg tissue. RG3, torn ACL, LCL, and MCL. And in the playoff game in 2013 where RG3 suffered these career-altering injuries, the field conditions were under a lot of scrutiny.
FedEx Field's conditions are coming under fire since Sunday's game. The field was patchy. The emblem was barely recognizable.
Seahawks defensive end Chris Clemens also tore his ACL in this playoff game, and there were actually some reports that the field was spray painted green before the game so that it would look better. And former Washington kicker Kai Forbath actually confirmed this report and said the team believed the unique field conditions gave them an advantage. But is there something about this specific field that causes more injuries? Well, Northwest Stadium is real grass, and studies actually show that turf fields generally produce more injuries than grass fields do. Grass gives way when players put force on it, which can release the cleat before the ground affects the player's leg or ankle. On turf, there is less give, so players' feet, ankles, and knees absorb the force, which can lead to injury. From 2017 to 2022, 7 of the 10 NFL stadiums that produced the most injuries had turf fields. And a study from the NFL's Player Association from just earlier this year revealed that 92% of NFL players prefer to play on real grass. But this is of course assuming that the grass field is well maintained, because Dr. David J. Chow, an orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine specialist, said that well-kept grass is generally safer than a turf field, but he also noted that each kind of surface has pros and cons in terms of injuries that are more likely to occur. In 2013, it's fair to say that Washington's fields may have not fallen into the well-maintained category and played a part in RG3's career-altering injury. But in 2021, the team completely renovated the playing surface, removing the old field and putting in brand new grass, so now this field is safer to play on than it was just 10 years ago during RG3's years here. So with a brand new field and $75 million invested in infrastructure and amenities, the team is investing a lot into Northwest Stadium. But it seems like it won't be the team's home for much longer. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Josh Harris, the team's new owner, is actively working on plans for a new stadium and has narrowed the search for a new location to 3 different sites. One in Maryland, one in DC, and one in Virginia. Interestingly, Virginia is actually the highest populated state in the country that does not have a stadium for a professional sports team in one of the 4 major American leagues. But the team's headquarters are currently located in Ashburn, Virginia, and the team's preseason training camp has taken place at their Ashburn facilities for the past 3 years. The team owns 162 acres of land here, and in 2022, they acquired the rights to purchase 200 acres of land in Woodbridge, Virginia. Both of these sites offer a fresh start for a new-look team and offer lots of space to build, but are further from downtown DC than the team's current location in Landover, Maryland, which could cause problems for commuting fans and bring unwanted traffic to the area. But Maryland officials are doing their best to keep the team from leaving. Upgrading an existing stadium is certainly less expensive than demolishing and building a new one, and state lawmakers have proposed a $400 million plan to develop an expansive entertainment, retail, and housing district around the existing stadium site. But this stadium has had some pretty public issues in recent years, so Maryland and Virginia both have some pros and cons. But like I mentioned earlier, the site that is a favorite amongst many fans is the site of RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C. itself. A poll earlier this year found that 51% of fans prefer a D.C. stadium, with just 17% preferring the team stay in Maryland and 15% supporting a move to Virginia. The RFK Stadium site holds lots of nostalgia for fans, but the land is federally owned, so building a new stadium there would bring some extra legal hurdles. As of now, all 3 options are still on the table, but the team's lease for Northwest Stadium goes through 2027, and owner Josh Harris has said that 2030 would be a realistic timeline for a new stadium to be ready for play. And with the current stadium having some of the worst reviews in the league, even amongst the team's own fans, I'm sure the new ownership will spare no expense at making sure the new stadium is a state-of-the-art facility for fans and players. But something that is not so state-of-art is this not-so-sturdy railing. So after the game, I went down to the very spot of this infamous collapse to investigate.
They actually have a sign over there that says leaning on railing is not permitted. And they have a lot of extra security over here as well. I will say I see a bend in one of the rails there, on that railing that fell. That may be the actual same railing that almost fell on Jalen Hurts. They never replaced it. But they do have like 12 security guards and a sign. So it seems like they kind of tightened up the area, which is good because a lot of people could have gotten hurt.
This stadium has obviously had its issues over the years, but the team and new ownership seem to be making efforts to fix them and begin a new era of Commanders football. And even though this stadium is consistently ranked among the worst in the league, most people I talk to seem to be having a great time still.
I've been coming here since I was 5. My dad's season tickets. The stadium's not the best, but now that we're winning, it doesn't matter. Winning, and then we'll get a new one soon.
As long as you're winning, that cures all.
It does.
How was your experience at the game today? Your first NFL game?
My first NFL game. My favorite thing was this.
It's a good foam finger. $10 for that thing. A little steep, but high quality foam.
Now let's go to the most expensive seat.
Ah, that sounds fun. Maybe next time.